On December 5, 2024, authorities in the city of Barranca Bermeja arrested notorious hitwoman, 22-year-old Karen Julieth Ojeda Rodriguez. As she was transferred for booking, Rodriguez stared down cameras and seemed to show no emotional reaction to what was unfolding around her. That cold stare is a signature, considering she is known locally as La Muñeca, or the doll. Authorities believe her to be a violent killer and the coordinator of dozens of vicious murders. Today we'll be breaking down how she earned that nickname, the forces that drove her vicious killings, and how she was finally caught. On July 23rd, Davey Jesus left home to meet his ex-girlfriend, Rodriguez, in hopes of resolving a financial dispute. Police investigations revealed that Davey's cell phone showed a text exchange with La Muñeca, in which she arranged their meetup. As he reached the rural area of Piedecuesta, a 2.5-hour drive outside Barranca Bermeja, he must have realized something didn't feel quite right. There was no sign of Rodriguez, and the rendezvous point she selected was completely isolated. Not long after, two riders on a motorcycle sped towards him and shot Davey to death in a drive-by style shooting. He was riddled with bullets. The victim was quickly transferred to a local Piedecuesta hospital, where he was admitted in critical condition and died shortly after. Authorities would later discover that the doll offered 4 million Colombian pesos, or $921 to anyone who would kill Davey. Davey is just one victim amongst 120+ others who have died by foul play in the Colombian city of Barranca Bermeja during 2024. Many of these killings were driven by gang-related violence. In particular, authorities believe a majority of the murders were carried out by members of the notorious Los de la M gang, or those of the M. Rodriguez is believed to be second in command of that gang and suspected of being responsible for carrying out the gang's killings. At the time of Davey's death, she had been making a career transition into her current role and has been leading a small network of hitmen and women operating within the gang ever since. For context, Colombia is amongst the top producers of cocaine in the world and is a hotbed for drug trafficking activities. Many gangs operate around Barranca Bermeja and have been warring for decades in hopes of controlling the northern Colombia region. For drug traffickers, this area is of particular strategic importance because it is near the Caribbean Sea and the Darien Gap. Both areas are considered key gateways to the United States and potential profits. Not much is known about Rodriguez's early life, but authorities do believe that she became entangled in criminal activity as soon as she graduated high school, but maybe even earlier. She operated in the Colombian cities of Bucaramanga, Piedecuesta, and Barranca Bermeja. Some journalists have reported that she also had influence in the city of Cúcuta. Over the course of her 4 years in gang life so far, she has built a frightening reputation amongst locals, gang members, and the authorities. This reputation is mainly due to her extensive expertise with firearms. Many knew her to be an excellent marksman with deadly precision and a steady aim. When arrested, she was taken into custody for possession of a 9mm handgun. She also had a motorcycle with her. At a mere 22 years old, Rodriguez created an extensive network of influence in the region. She built a network of hitmen and women to dispose of her gang's enemies. She is also believed to have carried out a number of hits on her own during her earlier years with the gang. Many wonder how Rodriguez was able to build her criminal career at such a young age. Some criminal experts who focus on Latin America and Colombia in particular believe that Rodriguez may have reached her criminal status by working in the gang for far longer than some would think. In Colombia, it's not uncommon for children to become involved in gang activity. It could be the case that Rodriguez has been involved with the M gang since she was only 12 or 13 years old. This would make sense considering the level of firearms knowledge and skills she's been able to acquire, despite being only 22 years old. She is known as the doll because of her glacial stare and the detached nature of her highly coordinated and methodical killings. In Latin America, muñeca is often used the same way sweetheart might be used in the United States. Not only that, but Rodriguez was also given this nickname because she was able to skillfully avoid suspicion by leveraging her appearance. She was known to frequently change her hair color to avoid being identified. Rodriguez worked most exclusively for the Los de la M gang and was being paid substantially for her work. She was a key player in coordinating and selecting murders. Her boss is gang leader, John Jairo Fernandez Portala. He was captured back in December 2022 by police, but has continued controlling the gang from the Giron prison in Santander. Authorities believe that Rodriguez and Portala are romantic partners. They say that Rodriguez would visit Portala in prison and receive some instructions from him. They also believe that networks of informants had been secretly passing information from Rodriguez to Portala. The gang leader was also likely controlling some authorities and politicians in the Magdalena Media region through a combination of extortion and blackmail. Just prior to Rodriguez's arrest, the mayor of Barranca Bermeja announced that 350 uniformed officers would arrive in the city to reinforce security, as well as special operations forces to try and prevent cases of extortion so they can carry out their case against Rodriguez. Police have still not officially charged her for the murders, as they are likely trying to build a leak-proof case against her. Most countries, including Colombia, have certain laws that can implicate someone in a murder despite not directly carrying out the killing. For example, conspiracy to commit a murder is one such law in the United States. In the case of the doll, she is most likely going to be caught up in a number of these types of charges. Police have not released a ton of information yet, but believe she directed a number of hits in the area. They did arrest her for possession of a 9mm handgun. Lieutenant Colonel Mauricio Herrera, commander of the Magdalena Media Police Department, was quoted as saying, "Firearms are subjected to a ballistic identification process to determine if they are involved in the latest incidents affecting citizens. They will use the 9mm to try and link Rodriguez to the killing of her ex, also known as ears. They will also test the ballistics to see if they match any of the other 120+ murders in the area." Alongside Rodriguez, police detained Paula Valentina Hoyer Rueda, otherwise known as Gorda Sicaria, or the Fat Hit Woman, along with a third accomplice known as Leopoldo. There is reason to believe that Rueda was the assistant to Rodriguez. There has also been some evidence suggesting that Rodriguez directed her assistant to kill her ex, Davey, after the pair had disputes over a financial arrangement. These finances are likely related to criminal activity in Santander and may have gotten so bad that Rodriguez decided it was time to take him out. While authorities are hopeful that apprehending Rodriguez will help reduce crime in the region, it is a complicated and long process to stop the gang entirely. Gang activity in Colombia has been around for a long time, and many of the organizations currently operating are complicated, almost like companies or governments. For example, the M Gang operates almost like a wheel, according to one criminal expert. Each spoke of the wheel keeps their information separate so as to not implicate one another if they are caught. This makes taking down a gang incredibly difficult, as it almost never stops, even if individual leaders are apprehended. In the case of the doll, there's a long road ahead for Colombian authorities to make sure she is brought to proper justice for her crimes. Meanwhile, there has been a huge online reaction to the doll's arrest, mainly driven by the viral video showing her arrest and being transferred for booking. Many have joked about the killer and her backstory, but is Rodriguez's story a prime candidate for a movie adaptation? Some definitely think so. Across social media, users believe she is the real-life version of a femme fatale. This archetype is often beautiful, mysterious, and lures men in only to bring them to an untimely demise. Others online also drew comparisons between Rodriguez and the actress Aubrey Plaza, of Parks and Recreation fame. Plaza, who is of Puerto Rican descent, is known for her sarcastic and oftentimes morally ambiguous sense of humor. Many are pointing out that Plaza's signature deadpan stare is extremely similar to the look Rodriguez gave cameras when peeking out through her long hair. Others online have even reportedly wanted to find out how much Rodriguez's bail was so they could get her out of jail and perhaps begin their own romantic fling with the killer. Clearly, Rodriguez's looks in combination with her criminal activity has driven the virality of her story. Aside from the online reaction, criminal experts around the world are looking at the story as further evidence that more and more women are joining organized crime groups, such as gangs. For example, in 2023, Colombian authorities arrested another high-level gang member known as the Little Baby of Crime, Wanda del Valle Bermudez Vieira. She was wanted for charges related to extortion, distribution of firearms, contract killings, human trafficking, and was actively collecting a whopping $7 million a month through her illegal activities. In a recent study, the International Crisis Group discovered that the number of women charged with offenses related to organized crime has grown from 5.4% in 2017 to 7.5% in 2021. Researchers stated that, quote, "While many of the women accused of belonging to criminal groups may be innocent, the ethnographic data collected by Crisis Group for this report and other expert analysis support the thesis that women are increasingly involved in these groups." Media coverage has also shown over the years that women represent between 5% and 8% of the active personnel of these groups. Guadalupe Correa Cabrera, a specialist in criminal organizations at George Mason University, was quoted as saying, "Sometimes criminal organizations offer some women the opportunity to develop a leadership scheme. And since prejudice and machismo make them invisible in some way, they can advance in those activities without being seen. And that is one thing that we have to increasingly understand." In the case of the doll, being a woman certainly helped Rodriguez avoid detection. Authorities already have an idea in their mind of who these gang members are and what they look like. It may have been a surprise to them that the killer carrying out coordinated hits was the romantic interest of the gang leader himself. Researchers have pointed out that these are not ideological organizations, but more like businesses or corporations. In that case, it shouldn't be surprising that women who can kill, launder money, transport merchandise, and use their capabilities will excel in that environment. One researcher was quoted as saying, "They do not exclude them because they are women. It is a matter of money, of profits." There is an entire history of women who have joined these organizations and have even gone on to control them entirely. Researchers found that these women often grew up in violent circumstances and grew extremely comfortable carrying out violent strategies in order to establish themselves in criminal circles. Rodriguez herself was known locally for the ability to trap her victims and was extremely skillful with a gun, which made her powerful in criminal circles. In Colombia, femicides and gender violence are a major issue and take a lot of the crime going on in the country. This makes the rise of women in organized crime a reality that raises alarms. Another researcher was quoted as saying, "It is a general security problem. All the women I investigated brought their children into the business, as did men, because all organized crime in Latin America has to do with the family. So protecting the business is the same as protecting the family and defending oneself with one's life if necessary." I also believe that the figure of the wife, the girlfriend, the victim is so strong that Colombians find it difficult to believe that women have this capacity of being criminals. Of course, this reason alone has made it easier for some women to remain undetected within the organizations. Some believe that they are already playing a huge role in organized crime, but authorities don't realize it yet simply because they are women. Only time will tell if Rodriguez is able to be fully prosecuted. At this moment, there is possibly already a network of Los de la M gang members working to try and pull apart the case against the doll. They may do this through extortion and violence against the authorities working the case. If they are unsuccessful, it's possible that others may take over her role to keep the gang going. Hopefully, they will all be brought to justice one day so that peace and safety can return to the region.